Look at the condition of this engine alternator. It's completely fried. But wait until you see how this guy restores it with pure manual skill. No fancy machines involved. Let's watch. The mechanic secures the engine alternator firmly in a bench vise. Using a long T-handle wrench, he loosens and removes the long through bolts holding the alternator assembly together. He gently taps the outer housing with a hammer to separate the front and rear casings, eventually removing the internal rotor. Wow, just look at that stator core! It's completely burnt out! You can tell this engine went through a lot. Removing this is going to take some real effort. The mechanic inspects the stator, which is severely burnt and non-functional. Using pliers, he cuts off the remaining wire leads and connecting terminals from the burnt stator. Now comes the satisfying part, the deep clean. It's amazing how much grime builds up over the years. Watch closely how he tackles this rust. The cleaning process begins. The mechanic uses a metal scraper and a wire brush to remove heavy rust and dirt. The smaller parts, the rotor, and the housing halves are placed in a tray. Petrol or diesel is poured over them, and a paintbrush and toothbrush are used to scrub away grease and grime, leaving the parts clean. You won't believe how this is going to look in a second. He's about to bring that dull metal back to life. The cleaned metal parts are taken to a bench grinder equipped with a wire wheel. They are pressed against the spinning wheel to buff the surfaces, removing oxidation and giving them a smooth, shiny, like new appearance.
Okay, this is an incredible technique. That old copper is glued tight with hardened varnish. Watch how he cleverly uses fire to loosen it up. This is pure, raw mechanical skill. The mechanic places the burnt stator on an iron pot and sets it on fire using a matchstick to soften the old varnish and insulation. An air blower is used to intensify the flames. Once the fire has done its job, cold water from a bottle is poured over the hot stator. This rapid cooling creates smoke and further loosens the burnt material inside the slots. Using pliers, the now softened clumps of burnt copper wire are pulled out of the stator slots one by one until the iron core is completely empty. This next step requires so much patience and precision. Without this tiny detail, the whole repair would fail instantly. The mechanic takes a sheet of white insulation paper and cuts it into small, uniform rectangular strips using scissors. Small paper strips are carefully inserted into each of the empty slots of the stator core. This paper acts as a crucial insulator to prevent the new copper wire from short-circuiting against the bare iron core.
Here comes the hardest part of the entire job, the rewinding. Doing this completely by hand, without a winding machine, is a true art form. Watch this carefully. The core rewinding process begins. The mechanic winds new, bare copper wire around a wooden frame to create coils of the correct length and shape. He then begins carefully inserting these wound coils into the paper-lined slots of the stator, following a specific winding pattern. He uses a small wooden stick to firmly press and seat the wires deep into the slots without damaging them.
Just look at that neat winding. Now, to seal the deal and make sure everything stays perfectly in place, he needs to lock it all down. Once the entire stator is completely rewound, the mechanic uses a soldering iron and solder to secure the ends of the wire coils to their respective connection points. Insulation varnish is generously poured over the newly wound stator coils. This bonds the wires tightly and provides a protective coating. A heat gun is then used to partially dry and harden the varnish.
यही मैजिक है, यही तरह जिस वजह से वो पहले जलाना पड़ा था। यानी कि इसने इसको हार्ड कर देना, जमा देना, वाइब्रेट नहीं होगी, हिलेगा नहीं और इसमें ताकत भी आएगी। हाँ, जल्दी गर्म नहीं होगा।
It's finally coming together! Seeing all these beautifully restored and rewound parts go back into the housing is just so satisfying! The reassembly process begins, putting the newly rewound stator, the cleaned rotor, and the polished outer housing halves back together. The mechanic reinserts and tightens the long through bolts using the T-handle wrench. He taps the housing lightly with a hammer to ensure all parts are seated perfectly flush. this manual labor, will this rebuilt alternator actually produce a spark? Let's find out. Finally, the completely rebuilt alternator is mounted onto a lathe machine. The alternator's pulley is connected to the machine's chuck, which spins the alternator rapidly, simulating the rotation of an engine. A test wire is touched against the alternator's output terminal to check for a spark. A strong spark is observed, confirming that the rebuilt alternator is successfully generating electrical current and the repair is complete.
एक सेकंड